All right, all right, all right. What's going on, everybody, man? Welcome back to another episode of Recruiting Unfiltered with Najeh Wilkins, man. Blessed to be here today. Gonna have my guy Brett Greenberg in the building, man. He's in the background. I'm not sure if he's doing something, man, but as soon as he's ready, I know he's gonna pop on, obviously, on the show, and obviously he'll show his camera in his face. So, Brett, if you hear this, let me know when you're ready, brother, and you're good to come on. But while we wait for Brett, we got the thumbs up. Let's go ahead and waste no more time and bring him on, man. Brett, my guy, what up?
What up, Najee? How we doing tonight?
I'm good, brother. How you doing?
Good, good. Happy to be back on. I think last time was signing day, so
Yes, sir.
appreciate you making some time for me. I know you always got a long list of suitors to get on this show, so I appreciate you.
Yes, sir. Appreciate you, man. I know you're a busy guy as well. So what's the latest, Brett? I mean, obviously Alabama's a team. We'll start. We're gonna go recruiting, but we're gonna start with just the spring game. Let's start there.
Okay.
What was your thoughts, Brett? Who really stood out? And then I think the big question people want to know, like QB1, like has that been solidified? Coach Kalen DeBoer was like, it's still a competition there. Like I'm not conceding that just yet. But what's your thoughts there?
Yeah, I think you hit it right there. The biggest storyline is obviously the quarterback position, and Crimson Tide in a big battle, or two players are, and Keelan Russell, the former five-star, and Austin Mack, who was at Washington, followed Kalen DeBoer over 2 seasons ago. Kalen DeBoer kind of revealed stuff to the media after the game that Austin Mack was a little dinged up, didn't really have as much reps as Keelan did in the practices to come to A-Day, and then also at the end of the game, most people saw who were there. Keelan Russell finished out the last 5 drives. So Keelan impressed. I don't think, on my end, just following him, the type of talent he is, didn't quite impress me in the sense that I was surprised of what he did, but he showed his ability to, stick in the pocket, deliver strikes to Sadarian Morgan, a couple other guys as well, but also something that I think is a little bit underrated when it comes to his game that I've been trying to tell people and trying to get people to know a little bit more is his legs. He was a part of a very good, impressive Duncanville High School track and field team. So he brings a lot of speed. I think he showed it a little bit as well in the spring game, which it's a little hard to show because you can't hit the quarterback, but he got out and ran. So yeah, it's a full-on competition. It's going to continue to roll on into the summer workouts, into the fall practice, and I wouldn't be surprised if you saw both of them maybe play against Eastern Carolina in that home opener. And now week 2 is at Kentucky. I think anytime you're in a road game and an SEC road game, you probably want to have a quarterback solidified by then. I know the plan is probably to name someone by August, but it wouldn't surprise me if both of those guys get some run in Bryant-Denny Stadium against Eastern Carolina.
In your opinion, Brett, what do you think is going to be the key to locking down that role for either guy?
It's tough, man. They're both so talented. Kalen DeBoer talks about all the time. Offensive coordinator Ryan Grubb talks about it as well. Like, there's not a throw in the field that both those guys cannot make. So from that perspective, I think it's very even, and they're both very, very talented. I think it's kind of what I said a few seconds ago. It's that ability to get out of the pocket and use the legs for Keelan Russell that I think ultimately lands him that starting role as the season progressed. So I think Austin Mack may take those first snaps at Eastern Carolina. Wouldn't be surprised in the slightest. But Keelan, man, he's different. He was a 5-star for a reason. What he can do and to quickly kind of decipher the defense, deliver strikes, and keep his feet moving. And if the pocket breaks down, to get out in space and take up some yards, get some first downs, run out of bounds, keep his body safe, I think ultimately will be the difference when it's all said and done.
There it is. All right, Brett, put us on game. Who else stood out in the spring scrimmage that we're not talking enough about?
Yeah, I think we'll talk, there's a bunch of guys. I think Sadarian Morgan obviously has been talked about a bunch, but he showed his flashes. He had a touchdown from Keelan Russell. He had a big chunk yard down the seam reception from Keelan Russell. He's a guy that now with the injury to Noah Rogers, the NC State transfer, who's expected to be out probably a week, maybe 2 in the season. There's another, it presents opportunity for Sadarian Morgan to make even bigger strides. And I mean, he's not really a guy that hasn't been talked about. He's a 5-star. Ryan Grubb, offensive coordinator, talked about how it was going to be hard to keep him off the field early. I think, this is, I guess, a Georgia-based show. We're going to talk about like a lot of Georgia guys in there. I think Luke Metz looked really good. I think he was a guy that maybe flew a little bit under the radar when he first committed to the Crimson Tide. Obviously, he stuck around. He's back. That linebacker room is kind of wide open aside from Caleb Woodson, who they brought in from Virginia Tech. He's probably your linebacker 1, but beyond that, it's a battle between Luke Metz, Daryl Duke Johnson, another Georgia guy, Abdul Sanders, QB Reese. But Luke Metz, You saw him in high school, and you followed him as closely as anybody else. Like, the kid just has it in between the ears. He had, in spring practice has that green dot. So he's that communication with defense corner Kane Womack. So that shows you a little bit of kind of the trust they have in him. And he looks the part. He's gained a bunch of weight. He was able to kind of diagnose some plays, get in the backfield, but also be out in coverage. So I thought he impressed. And then another guy we've talked about a bunch is Xavier Griffin, the former number one linebacker in the country. A lot of people were concerned, hey, is he going to put on weight? I know I've talked to you about it. And we joked about, like, you get into these high-profile programs of strength and conditioning, that's never going to be an issue. I believe he's up 20-plus pounds, so probably closer to 230. So – and and that weight gain didn't cause him to lose any speed. He was actually got in with the first team playing that outside linebacker role a little bit in the spring game. Mostly played with the 2s and the 3s, but that guy is going to be hard to keep off the field. And then another guy that out of the Peach State is Jordan Edmonds, who walks into a insanely talented and deep defensive back room that Coach Mo Linguist, cornerbacks coach, and Jason Jones, the safety coach, has built. You return a Dijon Lee, who's 6'4". You have Xavier Brown, who's 6'1", 6'2", one of the best cornerbacks in the country. You bring in a Carmelo O'Neal from Mercer, who's 6'4". Jordan Edmonds, 6'3", ran mostly with the 2s. He's looking probably at your cornerback 3/4 spot, but he's a true freshman. Has been getting a bunch of runs with the 1s in spring practice. And showed his ability to play man coverage, play plus coverage, also off the ball. There was a couple times where they went at him in the red zone. His length is just, you can't teach it. We talked about it a bunch, on the side and shows and everything in between. I think he stood out as well. But it's a loaded defensive secondary that I think don't envy those coaches trying to make decisions who's going to be on the field when.
100%. All right, Brett, we got to get to the nitty-gritty on the team. And we got to talk the trenches, okay? So let's start D-line before we go O-line. Tell me a little bit about it. I know some guys sending out. I know you've seen that AK Deer kind of viral play. Obviously, defensive lineman kind of just pushed him out the way. I know you've seen it, but a lot of the talk about Alabama, Brett, has been, are they physical enough? Like, I think they still kind of clamor and want that Nick Saban, but it's a different team. It's a different era. How are we looking in the defensive trenches, you think?
Yeah, I mean, those, you win in the trenches. Like, first of all, you got to get a good quarterback. You have to have a good quarterback to win anything, but it's the trenches that, you see at every level that matters in every game, every aspect, no matter where the game's being played. But those are the two positions that went with the most overhaul, most turnover in the transfer portal, and then through the high school ranks as well. Start with the defensive line. They bring in Devon Tompkins out of USC. You kind of heard his name really early when the portal started, and Alabama got him on campus and secured that commitment. And he's a guy that certainly looks the part. They know Alabama needs him to be successful, and it looks like he's going to be between all the buzz he's picking up. Another guy out of Oregon, Terrence Green, 6'5", 300+ pounds, kind of your nose tackle, so to speak. You lose Tim Keenan to eligibility, who was a great run stopper for Alabama for many years. He comes in, he looks the part. You bring in another guy in Mississippi State, former Mississippi State defensive lineman, Kedrick Bingley-Jones, who's entering his 7th year. He also looked the part. So Alabama's got a lot of moving pieces. You return a Justin Hill, Yonze Pierre, who was kind of thinking about potentially going to the draft. Wouldn't be surprised if Yonze Pierre is a first rounder a year from now. I think the draft's in a week or so. So right around this time, I think Yonze Pierre should be picking up a lot of praise. And quite frankly, Alabama needs that to happen for that Alabama defense to be successful. You saw, defense was pretty good last year. They still need to get to the quarterback and pressure the quarterback and force, quarterback outside and just make him uncomfortable. So a lot of moving pieces, a lot of depth on that defensive line, I think is going to continue to mold. It's a lot of new faces, learn the system and things like that. But everything you're hearing, they're looking pretty good. And then the offensive line as well. It's went over complete overhaul. You return one starter from an offensive line that, quite frankly, I don't think anybody would argue this was not good. The rushing game was not good. The offensive line was not very good at all. They fire Coach Kabilovich. He ends up at Auburn in an analyst role. You bring in Adrian Clem, who's a 3-time Super Bowl champ. Everything you're hearing about him is both from, parents of current players, recruits, and everybody in between really, really loves him. But, I'd argue he has one of the toughest jobs on the staff aside from Kalen DeBoer being, obviously the head coach. 6 different transfers come in, 5 freshmen come in. Michael Carroll, again, returns. He played most of started the last 6 games as tackle. He's since moved to guard. So a lot of moving pieces. That offensive line room, Kalen DeBoer talked about it after the spring game, needs to continue to get better. They need to spend more time together. You you know as much as anybody too. Like the offensive line is not only about being a good player, but you got to work together. You got to communicate together so there's not open gaps and things like that. And that's something that Alabama is going to continue to need to work on. And this offensive line has to have a good season, and we'll see it. We'll see if that comes together.
Last two things on the team, we'll go to recruiting. I want to ask, got to go to the running back room really quick. Do you feel like it's more depth this year? Do you feel like it will be better? Daniel Hill's gone viral, 805 squatting pounds. We know about EJ Crowell. What's going on with AK Deer, right? Like, how is this room kind of shaping and coming together?
Yeah, I think, obviously they went out, and it's kind of beating a dead horse here, but they went out and secured a commitment for a couple hours or days, whatever it was, of Hollywood Smothers from NC State. He, commits, then he flips to Texas. So that was kind of a big talking point, and it's probably going to continue to be brought up in the season. But you bring back a Daniel Hill who dropped 10 pounds. He looked like he was making some cuts in the spring game that he wasn't able to do last year. So that's a positive sign. You return AK Deer. Kevin Riley's back in the fold. EJ Crowell. It's kind of a bummer. He missing most of this spring due to an injury, lower body injury. I believe it's to his right ankle or lower right leg. So he's a guy that not only came in early as an early enrollee and reclassified, he's a guy who's missed a lot of the spring. So that's kind of, I don't want to say like killer, but it's crucial for those guys, early enrollees to get a lot of snaps to, everybody knows who follows Alabama, and EJ Corral knows what he can do. He can do pretty much everything. He's the complete back. He was the number one running back in the country for a reason out of the 2027 class or 26 class, even when reclassifying from 2027. But he's a guy that, needed those crucial reps. We'll see how he comes along in the summer and in the fall and how he progresses. But this staff absolutely loves him. Again, Daniel Hill looks the part, but again, it starts with the offensive line, and that unit needs to be better to get this Crimson Tide rushing attack going. I mean, you saw it last year. It was just the passing game. It was like Ty Simpson pretty much had an arm tied behind his back, just having to do it all. And then another guy, Alabama's had some great evaluations with this new staff and general manager Courtney Morgan and Jatavis Sanders and a couple of the other recruiting guys. Trayshawn Brown out of Texas. He was a guy that kind of committed to Alabama out of the blue. We didn't even have I don't even think we had a profile for him. Nobody really knew who he was. And he's a guy who's picked up a loads and loads of bloods in the spring practice kind of sessions, and then showed it on A-Day. He's shredded. He's quick. He's versatile. He runs with a purpose. He runs angry. He runs through defenders, and he's shifty. He's kind of that, even lined up a little bit in the slot. So he's a versatile kind of scat back guy that Alabama hasn't really had in a while. So it's funny. All the attention was on EJ Crowell, and for good reason. But with his injury and not having as many reps, it's opened the door for a true freshman, Trayshawn Brown, to kind of take his opportunity to run with it, and he has. So again, it's the running backs are heavily dependent on the success of the offensive line. I don't know how many times I'm going to say that. I've said it 100 times already. I'm going to continue to do that into the fall.
For sure. And I think last thing on the team, Brett, just what do they need to do to be that national contender, Brett? Like what is stopping Bama from being there? I feel like the criticism has been kind of unfair to the board to a degree. Like last year, everybody kind of got on them after the Florida State loss. Y'all turned around. Y'all get to the playoff. Y'all did get smacked, obviously, in the SEC championship game 28-7. But y'all did what y'all were supposed to do and beat Oklahoma on the road. So what do they need to do to be, okay, hey, we in the semifinals, we in the national championship game. What do they need to do?
Yeah, I mean, again, it's like I talked to some of these recruits about it too, like, and they agree. Like, some of these recruits are a little bit more level-headed than the fans. I know that might get me a little bit of trouble, but the expectations at Alabama are just so high. It's national championship or failure, national championship or bust. But that kind of shows you what Kalen DeBoer is, the type of person he is to take over after Nick Saban. I've kind of described him as a psycho in the best way of taking over the expectations. And again, you're right. Maybe didn't exceed or reach the expectations of the typical Alabama fan, but they do lose to Florida State. They turn it around. They rattle off, I think, 6 wins in a row in the SEC. The SEC championship is what it was. It wasn't even competitive, but we could dive into if championship games need to be played anymore, because clearly Alabama didn't move in the rankings after that slashing. So I don't know how important conference championships are. That's a conversation probably for another time. But then they go out and looks like they're going to lay an egg at Oklahoma, but come back and win that game on the road. It's never easy in an environment like that in the playoff. And then obviously get not embarrassed, but Indiana looked like what Alabama used to look like in that sense in that playoff game. But you go and you win a playoff game. That's, I think, is a good season. He's building his team. But I'll say it again. It starts and ends with the offensive line. The
Yes, sir.
defensive line, I think, is going to be very good. I don't think you can go wrong at the quarterback position between Austin Mack and Keelan Russell. The cornerback safety room, the secondary, I think, is probably the best and the deepest in the country. The linebacker room, I think, is good. They've got a lot of good options in there. We'll see who comes out of it. But for this team to go far and win a couple playoff games and a national championship, the offensive line has to be better.
Period. All right, let's talk about future Alabama Crimson Tide. I'm with you. I agree. But let's talk future Alabama Crimson Tide. Let's start with a guy. He's buzzing, right? Fans has been asking me. It was like, do you know any insides? Like, well, let me ask my guy Brett because he's plugged in. Should they be concerned about the Georgia visit by Elijah Haven? They're obviously in the top 3 for him, I think, along with Auburn and Bama. And what's the latest decision right around the corner on the 25th?
Yeah, like you said, Elijah Haven, our number 1 quarterback in the country in the 2027 class, number 2 overall prospect, 6'5", 215 pounds, just an absolute monster coming off a state championship for Dunham School. I believe it was their first in 20 to 40 years, whatever it may be. I put in a crystal ball forecast favor Alabama in November. I have not budged on that, and I continue to feel very, very confident about where the Crimson Tide stands. Yes, he visited Georgia, he's visited Auburn, but no school has gone to Haven on campus more times than Alabama. That was his 4th trip for the A-Day weekend. Was there for the 3rd Saturday of October versus Tennessee. Was back for the LSU game, back for Junior Day. The relationships he's built with that staff across the staff are just as strong as anybody else, probably a lot stronger than most staffs. So I like Alabama to get that one done and add the number 1 quarterback to a very, very talented and loaded quarterback room.
Quick follow-up on Haven. Is there any concern with just the QBs in that room, right? We talked about Matt, we talked about Keelan Russell. Reason I asked, Brett, you already got Trent Seaborn obviously committed for the 27 class. And the second quarterback in there, you can't forget about Jet Tamala as well. But it seems like, according to Tom Lloyd, who's on 247 staff, does a great job nationally, like he's cool with not starting as soon as he comes. He kind of wants to learn the system of whatever he decides to do, right?
Yeah.
What's your thoughts on that a little bit?
Yeah, spot on. I've got a lot of questions about, like, hey, what are they, they're building so many guys, they're adding so many guys into the quarterback room. What money are you spending? I'll say it again. The quarterback room, you have to have a guy to be anywhere competitive in the college football landscape. You can add guys that are willing to come in and compete. You do it. Jet Tamala, you brought up. He talked to me about that over and over again. Like, wherever quarterback room I was going to go to was going to be talented. Alabama certainly is talented. They're going to bring in guys after him. And you look at it, a Trent Seaborn, who's a 3-time state champion in Alabama. Elijah Haven, I like to add to the fold as well. So it's a loaded room. I think Alabama's smart in doing that. Can guys leave down the road? Absolutely. It wouldn't be surprising if there's a little bit of a logjam there, but you want to get these guys in the building. And to your point, yeah, I was talking with Elijah, talking with his dad pretty regularly. They've talked about it, like, which is kind of crazy to say, like he's the number 1 quarterback, but like he still has some things to work on. He's still a little bit raw. Our 247 guys like to project their rankings for the NFL draft. So they'll have a lot of stock in Elijah Haven, and he's talked like, yeah, if he's not ready to go, he's not ready to go. If he needs to learn for a year or 2, he's fine with it. They have trust in Kalen DeBoer and Ryan Grubb and the quarterback success they've had and the development they've had at that position. And, talk with Trent Seaborn, get a lot of questions. Hey, is Trent Seaborn okay with it? Is Elijah Haven okay with it? This staff's very open with each position room. Hey, we're taking X at this position. We're taking, this many at this position. Elijah Haven and Trent Seaborn, all 4 trips that Elijah Haven was on campus, Trent Seaborn was there as well. Their families get along really well. They both joke with me. They both have little brothers who throw the football around the facility. They get along. So, like, if the little brothers had anything to do with it, they'll both be at Alabama, and I think they will. Trent Seaborn, again, like, as impressive as he is on the field, he's might be even more impressive off the field, just the perspective and the thoughts he continues to share with me. Like, he's very, very excited about joining Alabama in a very talented room, even without Elijah. And then you ask him, hey, if Elijah comes, he's all for it. He wants the competition. He understands that if they didn't get Elijah Haven, they would get another very talented quarterback. And then 2028, it's going to be the same thing. 2029, it's going to be the same thing. So they're all on board. It seems to be a very close room. And then they're going to add Trent Seaborn for sure, who's not taking any visits, not entertaining any other schools. And again, I like for Elijah Haven to join that group as well.
All right, we'll leave it there. Thoughts on AJ Pauley and his commitment, Brett? Big one over the weekend. What's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, kind of felt like there was going to be someone to pull the trigger during their A-Day weekend. It kind of seems like that's been a theme. I was tracking a handful of guys, and AJ Pauley was a guy absolutely at the top of the list. Alabama defensive line coach Freddie Roach, Kane Womack, who spent his days in South Alabama, is very familiar in the Mobile area, and is very familiar with A.J. Pauly. He was a priority defensive lineman for them. He visited countless times, continued to name the Crimson Tide his top school, had said to me, I think the decision is probably going to be made sometime in the spring, not going to wait till my official visits are taken. He ends up doing that, 6'5", 265, I believe he's listed at. I was talking with him, like, where's the fit in the Alabama defense? Where do they kind of see you going once you get there? And he's told me, all interior. They're going to put on 25, 30 pounds to him. So that's a 6'5", near 300-pound guy that's going to take over that interior defensive line. And there's a lot to like with him, a lot of heavy hitters going after him. But this kid who grew up an Alabama fan in state knew how much this staff liked him, and they prioritized him very well. And the relationship he had with Freddie Roach was just ultimately an easy decision for him to join the Crimson Tide. And it was cool. Saw it over Twitter. I'm sure you did too. Kind of that moment he committed to Coach Kalen DeBoer. It's just an authentic thing, and it's cool to see like these guys who've worked their whole lives. They know what they want to do. They want to play football at the college level, and to do it for your in-state program was just a cool moment all around.
No, 100%. Obviously, shout out to AJ Pauly, man, big time commitment. And Bama's not done. I'm hearing a little thing through a source about Nigel Newkirk. I'm hearing some things. I'm not revealing my sources, but what's going on there? He just announced, I think, a top 6 or a finalist list. What's the latest on that?
Brett? Kind of sound like a broken record here, but I feel like Alabama's in a good spot for Newkirk as well. Set to commit July 1st. Had let me know that a couple days ago. Heading into his A-Day visit, was also on campus for Junior Day. Has been to Tuscaloosa countless times. And as recruitment running backs coach Robert Gillespie has prioritized him, more than prioritized him, kind of as that RB1 in the class. I know a lot of people are like, a 3-star, but like you've watched Nigel Newkirk as much as anybody in this state. This kid is a special. Look at Nigel. Look at Najeh agreeing with me there. Yeah. Special talent. I believe around 1,900 or a little bit over 1,400 yards, 19 touchdowns for Gainesville last fall. Ultimately suffered an injury late in the playoffs, which you hate to see for anybody. But Alabama is in a very good spot there. He's got great relationship with Robert Gillespie, got great relationship with Kalen DeBoer. And obviously you've got Xavier Griffin, who I mentioned, and Jamarian Matthews, who were his former teammates that are regularly in his ear trying to join the Crimson Tide. It's cool to see like these former teammates get kind of an inside real look at what the program is beyond the coaching staff. Of course, the coaching staff is honest and open and authentic, but it's good to, but maybe a little more casual way, chop it up with your boys, your old teammates, kind of see really what the Alabama program is all about. And he loves it. He, described Robert Gillespie, the running backs coach, as his second father, type of thing. So the relationship there is very strong. I was talking with his mother, absolutely loves the Crimson Tide, everything they have to go for it. And, I think we've talked about it. Xavier Griffin's mom, Jay Clay, I've said it over and over again. She needs to be, maybe he's on the recruiting payroll or something, like the amount how active she is on social media. And if she has anything to say about it, Nigel Newkirk will be committing to Alabama on July 1st. Now dealing with some other schools, Michigan, Ohio State, Miami's involved, a couple others as well. But I don't think anybody really has a strong relationship as not Nigel Newkirk, Robert Gillespie in Alabama.
There it is. Well, whatever you can reveal, Brett, what's next in line for Alabama? And is there any Georgia? We just mentioned Newkirk, but is there any Georgia high school players that Bama kind of, got an eye on or is looking at? They brought in several guys from last year's class.
Yeah, I'll give you one, right here. It's, it's not really kind of a secret or anything like that. It's Darius White out of Creekside, who a very, very good program in Alabama. Again, Coach Mo Linguist in the cornerbacks room has a type. Again, I mentioned Dijon Lee, who's 6'4", Carmelo Anthony, 6'4", Jordan Evans, 6'3", Darius White, another 6'3" defensive back, 175-ish pounds. Probably, get to the college level, add 15 pounds, get up, maybe that 190 mark. But Alabama has singled him out as arguably the top cornerback or one of the top cornerbacks on their board. And Darius White knows it. He's been to visit. He's visited, I think, 4 times since the new year. Junior Day, a Paris spring practice visit, and was over there for A-Day as well. Originally was supposed to commit on May 29th, which was going to be the first day of his Alabama official visit, which, take that for what you will, has ended up pushing that back to the 4th of July. So wouldn't be a 4th of July without maybe hitting a commitment story. Yeah, fireworks and maybe hitting a commitment story from a boat or wherever I'm at. I wouldn't want to have it any other way. But Alabama, I think, is doing a very good job there. Georgia Tech is involved, Cincinnati, a couple others as well. But I don't know. It's hard to think like if Alabama is prioritizing you as one of the top on your board and you meet that height requirement that they seemingly have, it's hard to see Darius White ending up elsewhere.
100%. And then any other guys they're after in terms of just the cycle in general?
Yeah, we'll stick with Georgia. I think it's two more guys that, and one of them I think you're going to agree with here. Obviously, KJ Green's is number 2 edge in the country on 2024-7, 5-star, number 8 overall, I believe it is. Absolute monster. Went and saw him work out a couple of weeks ago. Just a kind of a freak athlete. Alabama hosted him in late March for a multi-day visit. He had joked to me before the trip. He feels like he's been there a million times, dating back to the Nick Saban era as well, and told me, Alabama was at the top in January. Tells me again after that March visit, Alabama's at the top of the top, and you deal with Miami's involved, Georgia's involved, Texas is involved. So a lot of heavy hitters. I believe he's taken 9 total spring trips this over the last 2 months or so. But Alabama is squarely in a good position there, and a lot of it has to do with outside linebackers coach Christian Robinson, who played his high school football in the state of Georgia, and that's playing a big role. And then another guy I think is not getting enough national attention, I'm sure you've hit on him as well, is MJ Burnett out of Walton. That dude is listed at 6'4", 202 pounds. That kid is 6'5" to me. I swear to you, that kid I think he's 6'5". So you're looking at, again, more size, 6'5", 200 plus pounds. Alabama was named his top school coming out of the spring practice visit. And it's funny, they got an official visit set. Georgia Tech also has an official visit set. It seems like it's probably going to come down to those 2 schools. And a little bit kind of connection to both. Obviously, his father, Morgan Burnett, Green Bay Packer, great in the secondary, played his college ball at Georgia Tech. But also a little caveat is Morgan Burnett's backfield, secondary mate, kind of teammate in Green Bay for multiple years was Clinton Dix, who is an Alabama legend and also coaches and player personnel at Alabama. And I talked to MJ kind of over and over again, like, what's the biggest thing for Alabama besides, the history and Jason Jones, the safeties coach? It's like the connection he has with Clinton Dix. He's known him his entire life. So I wouldn't say it's a layup for Alabama, but him, those connections and him saying Alabama is the top school in his recruitment, it seems like the Crimson Tide will probably eventually get that done when it's all said and done.
There it is, man. Hey, you guys are hearing it from the great Brett Greenberg, man. We appreciate him coming on the show.
I get it from you. I get it all from you. Don't lie to the people.
I appreciate you, Brett, man. Before I let you go, man, anybody want to shout out or any last things you want to say, man? And how can the people get in touch with you and follow you, man?
You're busy guy. I think man, you make me angry. Oh my God, you make me angry. I'm just kidding for the people out there. Me and Najeh got a good relationship. I think last thing, Alabama, Alabama fans that don't really follow recruiting as much may look at the rankings, and they're high. They're I think in the 20s to 30s. Patience. It's what happened last year. Expecting the official visits to be very, very active. Again, we talked about Elijah Haven set to commit on April 25th. Expecting good news if you're an Alabama fan there. And a couple other, Nigel Newkirk, July 1st. Darius White, 4th of July. And there's a bunch of other guys that they're squarely in the mix for, if not the top, if not near the top, at the very top, going into what will be a very busy official visit weekend. I got a running list of confirmed visitors, over 35 to 40 guys already confirmed for those 4 major weekends. You can see all of that over at Bama247.com. And as far as shout out goes, shout out Najeh. Shout out the man Najeh.
My God. Hey, if y'all want to see Brett on him more, man, y'all let me know down in the comments. Look, he's busy, so I can't guarantee every week. We might try to get him once a month. You know what I'm saying? It's something.
Once we agree to a better fee to get me on, I'll get on more.
What's the fee, Brett?
I'm kidding. I told you. It's a Chick-fil-A sandwich. That's it.
Oh, that's it. Oh, you cheap, man. Okay, I thought this was gonna be like $100. Okay, hey, so we're gonna get Brett on child maybe once a month for Chick-fil-A sandwich.
Absolutely, God. Najeh, always a good time. Hit me up whenever. You know that.
Yes, sir. Love you, brother. Take you next time.
See you, bro. Yes, all sir.
Right. All right, my guy Brett Greenberg in the building, man. Appreciate him coming on. For the Bama fans, look, as y'all can see, you got a person that's plugged in and connected, man. There's nobody really more plugged and connected with Bama ball besides Brett Greenberg to me. Now, again, you got your other guys. You got Bama Online, 103, and you know what I'm saying, different things like that, man. But Brett keeps it real. Brett brings a little bit of spice to it, and he's going to give you the intel, man. He told you about all the guys they after, the spring game, and we're going to post this later, man, because this is some good information. This is some good intel. So y'all know what to do, man. We doing it all on the recruit show. We don't just talk to recruits. We bring in the insiders. You know what I'm saying? We bring in the recruits. We tell underrated stories. All that good stuff, man. This is the place to be on Thursday nights, man. Recruiting Unfiltered with Najeh Wilkins, where we keep it real, we keep it authentic. All right. Got a couple more news before we close out the show for today. Always appreciate y'all tuning in. Let's talk about my Hurricanes. Yes, sir, my Hurricanes. We got Tyler Ford. Now, look, a lot of people have been asking me, Naj, what you think about this commitment? What you think, man? Is he good? I'm seeing 3-star. Look, man, y'all can't get so caught up in the stars all the time, man. Okay, sometimes it's bigger than the stars. Sometimes it's bigger than that. All right. Now, this is the guy that plays left tackle for Gainesville. He's been massive since he's come in, right? Now, this is going to be a situation, y'all, for my Canes fans that are watching. Like, they're going to have to develop him some, right? But I think it's a situation where he's not going to have to play as soon as he gets there, right? That's going to be maybe a second-year thing, grows, develops, get into the strength and conditioning program. Like we've seen Mario Cristobal develop these guys, right? We've seen the Ruben Baines develop through there. The Keem Messendores develop through there. The Malachi Tonys develop through there, right? So this is nothing new. This guy is massive. This is big for the Hurricanes, and you're going to be able to get a guy that you're going to be to develop. And I think he could be an all-ACC caliber guy before it's said and done. I really believe that, right? Now, it's going to take some time, right? Because you got some different things, kinks you got to work out, man. But Tyler Ford is very talented. And 6'6", 305 don't grow on trees, especially on the interior of that offensive line, right? And there's no guarantee he could be 6'7", 6'8" before it's said and done. Kid is massive, kid is big. All right, so this is a good recruitment for Miami, and I think the Hurricanes fans should be excited. Should be very excited that they got him obviously on, you know what I'm saying, in Miami in the 305. All right. More recruiting news. This is a very interesting one I want to pull up as well. Jaden Upshaw officially committed, obviously, to Texas A&M. Now, we know Miami was in there, Florida, obviously Alabama. This one makes a lot of sense. Now, last few cycles, Texas A&M has been able to come into Georgia and get guys, right? Look at Aaron Gregory, right? They've been able to get, you know, at one point it was Jordan Carter. You know, they've been recruiting the state of Georgia pretty hard out there in Texas, out there in College Station, right? Now, my thoughts on Upshaw, I think he's very talented, right? And I think he's a guy that can play at a high level. You know, I think he's a guy that has a huge catch radius. He can take over games. I think my only concern is just the drops a little bit, right? It's every once in a while you have a drop here or there. I've been seeing a little bit more frequently, but I'm not going to sit and act like this kid can't play. This kid is talented, can play at a high level, man. Huge catch radius, can do a whole bunch of different things, man. So this is a kid I think the Aggies fans will be happy about. 6'2", 200. Reminds you a little bit. He's not really of that stature of a Mike Evans, you know what I'm saying, in terms of like big body receiver, but he's more, he can do the dirty work big time with the ball after the catch and things like that, man. So I think Aggie fans should be excited for this one. Definitely a good recruitment, definitely a major pickup and a guy that can obviously make some noise. All right. Now we got more recruiting news, and we're going to go this one with Grant Hovland. Now, it's been some talk about, obviously, Georgia players deciding to go to different schools and not go to Georgia, right? Everybody that's in Georgia ain't going to go to Georgia, right? That's just period, point blank what it is, right? And I don't think every player is chasing money. I think players are chasing opportunities, right? You got to remember, at certain spots for Georgia, right, you can play, yes, of course, but other spots, like, it takes time, right? Georgia's very talented at the tight end position. You know what I'm saying? And for Grant, it's like Vanderbilt, Tennessee's in there. Those make sense. Ethan Davis is about to leave. He obviously didn't end up at Tennessee. He ended up at Vanderbilt. But Vanderbilt has a very good opportunity for him. And then you're going to get to play potentially with the top quarterback, or was the top quarterback of the past cycle, in Jared Curtis. Like, why would I pass that up? Right? Obviously, he's going to take his kinks this year, and he's going to learn, he's going to have his ups and downs. But by the time Grant gets in there, like, he's going to be more polished. He's going to be more developed. So why would I not go to Vanderbilt, a team that's ascending, right? A team that Diego Pavia and obviously their head coach got to this level where they're, I don't want to say nationally respected, but they're no longer the doorstep, right? They're no longer the laughing stock of the SEC, right? This is a team that if you don't bring your lunch pail and you're not ready to go to battle, they will beat you, which we've seen a few years ago. So this team's on a new trajectory. Flipping Jared Curtis, a 5-star prospect, keep getting him to stay home. More kids now want to stay home. Like, that is massive. So for Grant, I think it's the opportunity of, I can go to this place, I can develop, they're on a rise. You know what I'm saying? And this is a program that's trying to take the next step and jump forward. I think it's a great recruitment. I think it's a great decision by him, and he gets a chance to develop. Now, again, we're recruiting. You know, it goes all the way down to December. We'll see somebody else try to make some play for him. But I think Vanderbilt was a great option for him, and I think he made the right choice to choose that program. All right. Now we go to Texas. Y'all know I cover Texas football, man. And a lot of recruiting is going on with this guy right here. And this is Monsoon Sales. Okay. Easton Royal, who is committed to Texas, has even said, basically, come down here with me. They can't double both of us now. Right. Now, if you're a Texas fan, you gotta be excited, right? You get 1 year Cam Coleman, Ryan Wingo, I think, is going to sophomore, if not sophomore, junior season, right? You got to look at what's kind of next coming down the pike if you Texas, right? Obviously, we've seen it to KJ Lacey. Obviously, we've seen Dia Bell, and those guys going to probably be next in line. I don't see really Texas going and getting a quarterback out of the portal, or a veteran. If they do, it's just probably for more moral support. I think they're going to probably build with those young, talented guys that have been getting the last few cycles, right? So if you're Texas, this is a good spot to be in because you got two of the top receivers potentially in the nation coming down to your campus to play for you, right? Obviously, Alabama, Indiana, Ohio, Miami are all firmly in the mix as well, right? Miami already got some guys, Nick Lanier, right? Obviously, Amari Stevenson, right? They're kind of like got a whole bunch of players. Ohio State, still working on obviously getting the major recruits for this cycle. I don't believe they have a 5-star committed right now at the wide receiver spot. I know last cycle it was Chris Henry Jr., right? Indiana's also very entertaining as well because it's a team that's obviously no more on the rise. They are here. They have arrived winning the national championship last year, right? And Coach Signetti has showed you that he's willing to go get the top recruits. He showed you that he can get you there even if the quarterback is not heavily recruited or known. Fernando Mendoza, Curtis Rogue, this past cycle, getting Josh Hoover in there, right? And then obviously you have Alabama. Alabama has a whole bunch of talented receivers, so on and so forth. But if I'm Monsoon Sales, I'm thinking long and hard. Okay, who's the quarterback that's going to be there? Talk about Dia Bell, KJ Lacey. The talent, Easton Royal, you know what I'm saying? Obviously myself. And I feel pretty good because it's like this team is talented. They're getting top guys, and I get to play with some of the best and get developed here at Texas. So we'll see what happens. Obviously, they're starting to get some momentum and trend for him. And obviously, Easton Royal is trying to get him on campus with him as well, man. I think it's a pretty clear-cut decision if I'm Montrell Sales, but obviously he has time to go through the recruitment process, so on and so forth. But I'm interested to see what school he chooses, but things are heating up with him and obviously the Texas Longhorns. All right. Now, last but not least, before we obviously end off the show, man, we got to go with my big commitment that I announced today. And again, I'm out on the level of Riley Alberts just yet. I'm on the level of obviously Hayes Foster because these guys do this for a living and constant breaking news. I'm kind of more so your versatile intermediary, right? And if you don't know what an intermediary is, it means just somebody that's in the middle, right? I can do a little bit of everything. I can make graphics. I can, I can host and announce commitments. You know what I'm saying? I can do interviews, right? I can do a little bit of it all. You know what I'm saying? So, obviously this one didn't get a whole bunch of traction. It's a different team than what I usually cover, which is obviously Georgia Tech. I had to redo the post. Obviously I had the wrong team, so on and so forth. I thought it was gaining some steam, but it didn't do as good as I thought it or would have liked it to do. But it's okay, man. I got to break the news. I'm not too upset about it. I don't have a huge Duke fan base, so it is okay. I'm not like upset at all. Things happen. But at the end of the day, this is a major recruit for them. Duke has shown the ability to recruit at a high level and bring in talent like this. Nate Shepard played his true freshman year. And I think if you are Michael Steffen, you feel good because, right, this is a program that's shown, hey, if you can play, you'll play early for us. And the coach has some stability who just got signed to a new contract in obviously Manny Diaz. So you got to feel good knowing, hey, my running backs coach is going to likely be there. My head coach is going to be there for quite a long time. They play their running backs early. And with my talent, my ability to get to the second level quickly, to high football IQ, be able to catch the ball in the backfield, be able to make people miss in the hole, be able to have a second level burst of speed, I feel good because I know what I can do with my talent and I know how special I am as a player, right? So I think for Michael Steffen, it's a clear-cut decision. He's a talented back, and he's going to be able to go to Duke and be able to play at a high level, man. So I think Duke got a very underrated player. People are going to look into the 3-star building and not see everything else that he has and going to be pretty shocked when he goes on campus and he balls the hell out. But that's going to do it for today's show, man. I plan on having some players next week. I might reach out to a couple of my Georgia insiders because, again, I'm trying to grow the show, man. I'm trying to have top guys on. I feel like everybody that's doing shows, they got guys from Alabama or they got guys from Colorado or Tennessee, Texas, and bring them on their show and get the insight on them teams, man. So like I said, I cover Bama, I cover Georgia, I cover Georgia Tech, Miami, Texas, Tennessee, So I want to start having some of them top guys on the show just to talk about what's going on with these programs, man, and give you guys all the intel and insight into them as I cover them for college football throughout the year and build this thing. But y'all know what to do, man. Like, comment, subscribe. Hit me the DM at Najeh Wilk on all platforms and let me know who y'all want to see next on the show. Okay, I'm gonna try to get it. Now, 5 stars, 4 stars I can get. I can get y'all some 4 stars. The 5 stars is gonna be a little bit harder, man. 5 stars is a little bit different. They be hard to get in contact with. But y'all just let me know what y'all want to see. And I'm going to try my best to go get it for y'all. All right? But I'll see y'all boys next Thursday. I'll be on later for my basketball show tonight with my boy Bacon at 8:15. So y'all tune in for that. Till next time, it's Recruiting Unfiltered with Najeh Wilkins. And I will see y'all boys in the next one. Peace.